Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dinner is served. That's right, we're talking Coquilles, Episode 5, Season 1 of Hannibal on Dish by Dish. Well, greetings and salutations there, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from FBI Behavioral Science Unit Headquarters. This is the Dish by Dish, a Hannibal Rewatch Project podcast, the sister project to Kill by Kill. And as always, there is only one person that I trust, that if I am going to pick some people out at random to turn into flesh angels, she'll point out which ones have their heads lit on fire. The one, the only, Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gena?
Well, it's not hard to miss if someone's head is on fire.
Yes, but not everyone sees it, and that's the problem. You gotta be in the right place at the right time, and maybe have had a near-death experience as a child in a burning building.
The right place in this place happens to be Trenton, New Jersey. Yay, New Jersey represented finally.
Finally, something great happened in Jersey. Specifically Trenton, a lovely town I spent a little bit of time in. This particular episode, while decidedly grody and sad in parts, is a real pick-me-up from episode 4.
Yeah, what you can really say about this episode is it's definitely another how the fuck did this get on network television moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You do wonder how they ever thought they were going to get away with it. And yet, I think because at the time, you have The Walking Dead coming out and,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. And The Walking Dead definitely pushed it for the gore. And yet I feel like here it's somehow more, well, no pun intended, visceral. Like, it just feels more like, I feel like The Walking Dead is kind of more, it got a little bit numbing after a certain point. Here it's just like, it's very startling.
Yeah. And it's obviously a direct visual reference to a moment from the film version of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I did in fact jot down a callback to Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, very much so. It's almost as if they worked backwards from there.
And one that we would later see to a certain extent in Midsommar.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When it happened, and I think this is a grislier version than what happens in Silence.
Yes.
It's just, and because you see it from so many.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It Silence of the Lambs. It's like a not even a 10-second shot, and here you see it several times, several angles, and done on more than one person.
Yes. So let's get into it. The episode starts, of course, with Will Graham wandering the roadside in his rotation of very dark gray and gross sleepwear. I don't.
It's just permanently sweat stained, I think, is the idea.
I believe it was the previous episode. We didn't really bring it up because there's so much to talk about, but there's a sequence in which Hannibal goes to feed Will's dogs and ends up like finishing a fly fisherman hook that he's working on. It's just really getting into his biz. And he opens up this drawer of just white t-shirts and white socks that are perfectly laid out. And you're like, when does he wear that? Because every time I see him, he's like wearing something from the MASH collection.
He just looks permanently rumpled. which is a contrast. You were saying in the last episode about how pressed and perfect Hannibal's outfits always are.
Sure.
And he's like, Will dresses like a 35-year-old college student.
He's dressing for comfort, and there's always a very brisk cold front moving in.
Yeah, there's just layers. Everything's a little too big for him. It is unknown when's the last time it was washed.
Yeah, and yet his drawers filled with clean clothes. But here he's wandering the roadside. He's sleepwalking is what we learn. One of his dogs has followed him out, which I think helps him not be arrested on sight, because if a dog knows you and you live there, they're less likely to think you're just whacked out on meth wandering the roadside. Probably a skosh of white privilege being dashed in there.
Well, yeah.
But this is the first sort of inkling beyond him being a super sweaty sleeper that something is going on inside Will that's not just my thinky parts hurt. There's something deep inside of him that might actually be severely broken.
Right. And again, this is something that Red Dragon as a book and like Manhunter barely touched upon. You the whole thing was, he discovered what Hannibal Lecter was doing.
Mm-hmm.
The Hannibal Lecter attacked him, almost killed him, and then the idea is that he is traumatized from that particular experience.
Yeah.
Not from years and years of doing behavior, kind of doing, sort of in-depth behavioral science.
Yeah.
He's traumatized from the singular encounter with Hannibal Lecter that left him near death. Here it's something entirely different. He was already hovering over the abyss before he met Hannibal Lecter.
Yes. It is argued several times that he never should have been introduced to field work in this particular area.
Absolutely not.
But he doesn't get a lot of sleep, obviously, and then is woken up very early the next morning to go to the aforementioned Trenton, New Jersey.
I think they were like teleporting.
Yes, I feel like
he lives in Virginia. He keeps mentioning Wolf Trap, which is in Virginia.
Yes.
And so that's about a 4-hour ride from Wolf Trap to Trenton.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, get ready to go. And then he's still tired from not having slept the night before. It's like, did you just blink your eyes and just pop up there?
I'm going to assume that the FBI has some sort of jet that takes.
Well, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
But
your tax dollars at work.
True. We didn't mention in the previous episode, when they go to rescue that last family, that why didn't they just send the police? Like, why are they waiting for Jack and Will and the BSU forensics team to show up with guns? Like, it's so always weird when they show that like that BSU team who are usually putting things under microscopes, just whip out guns.
Yeah, I don't know if they all do the same thing, despite what television may tell us.
Yeah, it's a little again. It's a beautiful fantasy. We're not coming to Hannibal for realism.
No.
And speaking of coming to Hannibal for realism, a no-tell motel in Trenton, New Jersey. So it turns out that the local PD have discovered a crime scene. They want nothing to do with it. They bring in the FBI's BSU, and Will enters the door, and we see two naked people with their back flayed open in two ways, so that from their haunches, basically from the base of their butt up to their shoulder blades, two chunks of flesh have been ripped upwards and are hooked with fish hooks and fishing line to the ceiling. And then the people have been positioned in such a way that fishing wire is keeping them knelt down with their hands in prayer at the foot of a bed. And it is gross.
Yeah, it's really gory. And again, this is not like how you see for like a split second. They linger on this.
Oh, you see every part of it. It's just they don't hide it. And when you think, oh, see, they're getting it all out of the way here, later in the episode, you get to see it again on another person.
And you get to see what apparently is a pair of removed testicles.
Because that's what was missing. Literally, boom. I don't think that's how a rim shot goes. But
did you like work a little bit when Will's like, I need to lay down the bed?
Yeah, give me a plastic sheet. I gotta lay down.
I gotta lay down, with these corpses in front of me and like an end table covered in vomit about 5 inches from my head.
I mean, one of these episodes, he's gonna make a request, and I need one of these people to go, give me a fucking break.
It's like, ew, why?
Like, you go into dreamland from the side.
Exactly.
Come on. Like, you gotta be right up in that bed. And his head, I mean, even grosser. There's no plastic on that headboard.
No.
And his head's right up against it.
I mean, you're gonna, at the best of times, you don't want to lay down on that kind of motel sheets with nothing to protect you.
Yeah. Katz dips her finger right into some vomit. It's the closest close-up of vomit, and just her sticking her finger into it like, oh, what do we got? What do we got here, gents? Oh, come on, man. I'm like dollars to donuts. It's vomit, right? You don't have to touch it.
I mean, we all know what vomit looks like.
And if there's one thing I learned from this is Spinal Tap, you can't dust for vomit.
But you can find out that the
Yes.
person who vomited is apparently taking a cocktail of cancer drugs.
Yes, which Abrams just is like, okay, that's for that. That's for that. That's for that. Like, no one's Googling this.
Yeah, bada boom, bada bing, he's got a brain tumor.
Yeah, that's a recipe for a brain tumor right there. So we got a guy with a brain tumor who likes to sleep in front of angels he makes himself. Now, we know who the face of this guy, because we see him from the cold open on. And one thing's for sure, he likes a lot of ice. And two, if he sees people with their heads on fire, that is not a good sign.
Well, it's not a good sign for two reasons. The first reason is he will kill them and turn them into flesh angels. Mm-hmm. The second thing is they're actually bad people, as we find out. He has apparently, it's not really explained, but I don't know if you're supposed to imply that it's the tumor doing this, or is it some sort of weird, gift from God, ironically, that he can tell when somebody has done bad things because their heads appear to be on fire.
It's a weird juxtaposition between that and the dinner conversation that Hannibal has with Crawford and his wife, in which he smells her.
Yeah, that's the first time, because that was definitely something in Silence, like that he apparently has this really like crazy sense of smell.
Yes.
And so he's like kind of sniffing and then like,
really drinking it in.
Yeah, kind of making it a little sexy. But the problem is, like, when you smell someone, it's never not creepy.
Yes. As witnessed by the person that you and I and everyone who's listening to this should vote for. Sniffing people, whether they know it or not, always comes off creepy. It doesn't matter what your reasons are.
Yeah.
That's just a tip from Kill by Kill or Dish by Dish, whatever show we're doing now. I can't tell.
It applies to both.
Yeah.
So speaking of the dinner featuring Hannibal, Crawford, and Crawford's wife, her name is Phyllis. He calls her Bella. She is played by Gena Torres, who is now sadly Lawrence Fishburne's ex-wife. Oh. They split up at some point after the series ended.
I thought they were still together.
Nope, they split up 2 years ago. Which is a shame, because I mean it's always interesting to see real life married couples, especially playing a situation that, as we will soon find out, it's very painful.
Yes. But they're so comfortable, and they're both so good looking. Yes,
they are extraordinarily attractive.
It's just a real shame when people are that extraordinarily good looking, and then they're like, "Oh, this can't work out." It's like, come on. Are you kidding me?
It's like, you want to look at some other face besides that every day? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Like, Gena Torres, first off, just a fantastic actress. Second of all, like a Greek goddess. I think we were all robbed. Not that we have a bad Wonder Woman, but I wish at one point she had been Wonder Woman. I just feel like she would have been.
I can see that.
The greatest Wonder Woman. But she's great in everything that she does. And luckily, I think she's found a very solid TV life for herself.
But in this scene, they serve Hannibal serves them foie gras.
Yes.
And I have to ask, have you ever had foie gras, Patrick?
I have. I've had foie gras several ways. I've had it in terrains. I've had it hot. I've had it cold. I have always, I've had it on top of fries.
Oh my God.
I've always been, it's delicious.
You're still alive.
And I'm still alive. It's not an everyday food.
Oh God, no.
And it's also cruel. It's a cruel and terrible thing that tastes good.
I actually tried it for the first time last year, if you can believe that.
How was it prepared?
It was a schmear, basically, on a plate.
Okay.
And when they served it, I was like, oh, this is so small for this price.
Yeah.
And I put it on the fork, and I was like, my heart seized up for like 10 seconds. I made peace with my God. I told my family in my head that I loved them and I hope that they would remember me well. And then my heart gradually started beating again, and I was okay.
It's like, we can get through this.
Yeah, I was like, come on, just Jesus Christ, how come I can't remember the actor's name? On Saturday Night Live, Chris Farley, the whole punching himself in the chest thing to get his heart restarted. That was me at this high end restaurant.
Yeah, foie gras is decidedly rich.
Oh, God.
It is made, if I remember correctly, by stuffing breadcrumbs into one of the organs of a goose.
Yes.
Into the liver of a goose.
Yes, it's
perhaps?
It's goose liver.
It's goose liver.
Yeah.
And of course you have to force feed them to do that.
Yeah, it was actually illegal, I believe, to serve here for some time, and then they lifted that. So
yeah.
But you know, if we were to die of a heart attack from eating foie gras, we would fucking deserve it. Yes. Honestly,
you're kind of asking for it. It is perhaps the most decadent and, you know, you're on your way to get your head chopped off.
Exactly.
And maybe have it coming sort of food.
It's like up there with, like, you know, a hamburger made with gold leaf.
Oh, fucking gold leaf. It's seriously. I hate it. Foie gras, better when it has a char on it for me. It releases some sugars that way. So you get, and warm, it tends to go down a little bit better. But yes, you don't want a lot. You just need a little.
You literally need, you'll be shocked at how small of a portion you will get for the price you pay for it.
Yes.
But that's all your body can take.
No, you don't need more, and you shouldn't have any. That's the thing about it.
Well, I don't think we're convincing people not to try it.
I know.
Yes, well, it's horrible, but it's also delicious.
It's deliciously repugnant, is what it comes down to. Like, I can't, only the fucking French could come up with something so inherently delicious and cruel. And so it's one of those things that if you have the sort of ethics that you can't bring yourself to think about animal cruelty in any way, my suggestion is to never have it. There's no part of it that is going to make you feel better about yourself. It's okay. It's okay to pass it on by. You don't need that experience. And I take this, and one of the reasons I tried it was once upon a time I worked in Japan. And the deal I made with myself when I started working over there was I couldn't be this tiny dicked goof who would say no to things that I was going to be offered. Like, I was going to have a life-changing experience on somebody else's dime. So if someone hands you something and says, eat this, you had better give it one or two chops.
Yeah. I think that's that's how it was. Kind of like, it was like a tasting menu.
Yeah,
at this restaurant I was at, and I was like, well, you know, life is too short. Let me try it. Like, oh God, my heart.
But on the other end of that, on occasion, you'll be handed something and you put it in your mouth. And you're like, well, I don't particularly care for that. And then you realize, what is this? And then go, whale.
Oh,
and you're like,
God.
Oh, fuck you.
And then you're like Tom Hanks and Big, just like trying to casually spit it into a napkin.
Yeah, I was basically scraping my tongue with whatever was available in my mind, but I had to like gulp it and then just down a beer and just pass on it but this is how you end up eating a wedge of whale or raw horse meat or a scorpion. And the scorpion wasn't half bad.
How many times have people given you something to eat? You just ate it without asking what it was.
A fair amount. And I mean, at a certain point, like it's like, let's torture the gaijin. And I get it, but it was also very team building because, you know, I was not the best manager, let's say, you know, and I don't know that I was built for telling people what to do in a stressful environment or teaching them how to act correctly. But, I was still in charge to a certain degree of my particular disciplines. And so if I was going to carry any weight with these people, I had to display a certain amount of humility. And that meant going out drinking, going out eating, and occasionally swallowing some scorpion parts. Like, you have to do it. And I certainly, the horse and the whale on the highest ends of, I never want to have that again. But I had plenty of things that I probably would not have tried, but ended up loving as a result because I made that pledge to myself. But you don't have to, listener. You don't have to do that. And so I think there's plenty of people who will be okay with it and plenty of people who aren't. So this is a no judgment zone when it comes to this, because we also don't know if that foie gras is actually coming from a goose.
Yeah, it's not really. It's probably safe to assume that everything that Hannibal serves is made of people in some way. Like in the last episode, he made what did he call the breakfast in the last episode? Like there was some sort of name for it. It was just sausage and eggs, but there was some sort of.
Yes.
But I'm sure the sausage was made of people.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the foie gras was made of people.
Yeah.
We don't see it this time, but
No.
but it's probably safe to assume that he's way into upcycling.
Yes. But this is one of those plates that gets handed out that is one of the first times where I'm like, oh, wow, that is a really gorgeous
It's
looking
like, I don't
plate.
care what that is, I'm gonna eat it.
Yes. I mean, that is a weird looking mushroom that kind of looks like brain, but it's a mushroom, and I would try it. That's the thing. Like, I think he presents it in such a way that you would feel weird saying no, and yet she does say, like, I'm going to pass on this one if that's okay, and she does it in such a way that she is not rude and therefore remains in Hannibal's good graces. So she's got that going for her. Also, he probably doesn't want to eat her because we find out she is riddled with stage 4 cancer.
Looks great for having stage 4 lung cancer.
Yes.
I mean, I have a head. When I have a head cold, I just look like absolute shit. But she looks like a supermodel.
Oh my God. Yeah, she's great. And turns out, she's going to see Hannibal to deal with her grief. She finally tells Jack that she is dying, and this weirdly, dovetails with our central plot here.
Right, because it all involves cancer and being afraid of death and
yes,
needing people to watch over you.
And
this is 2 episodes in a row where they very cleverly have all the plots parallel each other in some way.
Yes. And I think that's where we are from the get. Like, they figure out how to start achieving their goals because they've laid enough groundwork that they stop worrying about convincing you that you're going to like this show about Hannibal Lecter. And they're like, no, let's just make a good show. And not that 1 through 3 are bad episodes.
Right, but
a lot of shoe leather.
Right. Like this is the episode which you realize, okay, this isn't always going to be murder of the week. It is. Here's the point where it starts to become character driven.
Yes, and you still get a murder of the week. A murder A murderer who sees a supposed security guard, turns out it's not a security guard, just someone who dresses like that so he can do bad things. But he gets hoisted up on scaffolding 3 stories in the sky.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because there's a really great shot where it's just, Will looking up and it, I mean, obviously on purpose looks like a church altar, like he's kind of strung up like a crucifix almost, like, and even the lighting looks a little weirdly ethereal.
This is the most silence.
Right.
Shot.
Right. But all I could think is, how did he get him up there?
There's pulleys and heavy duty wire involved in this. Like, he's wandering around with all this accoutrement, or he was just on the work site. Like, he works fast, and there's a bum in that. My apologies to the unhoused, but the person there is presented as a drunk bum in that same alleyway. And what does he just escort that guy? Like, hey, here's a dime.
Go get yourself some Mad Dog.
Yeah.
You okay, buddy?
Here's $5. Kick rocks. Meanwhile, I'm going to hoist this guy in the sky and also take my own balls off.
And just walk away.
Yes. You can't just sever your testes and just go, all right, well, it's been an afternoon. I'm going to sleep this off.
Yeah, this episode definitely pushes reality. Like, okay, this is not possible. Yeah. Because, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the ending yet where this guy, he does this they call it a blood eagle. And he does it to himself. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's not possible. I just, I'm not saying it as a flaw against the show. I don't think the show is trying to be realistic. I think it's trying to mash up, actual legitimate behavioral science and forensics technology with the fantastical.
And it has no desire to be super realistic.
Right.
It's just not its main goal. It's operatic by its very nature. So you just have to take it as thus.
Yeah, which in that case, I feel it's more resembling of Hannibal the movie, which I'll mention this several times, particularly once we get into the series, that kind of overlaps a little bit with the events in Hannibal, with particularly certain characters. I really disliked that movie a lot, but I thought it had some interesting set pieces, like the investigator basically getting hung on its own entrails, which I was like, ooh, yeah, that's nasty.
That book has 2 highlights, and conversely, I think the movie has 2 highlights, and that's getting hung by your own entrails and getting served your own brain.
Well, I mean, we're also sexually molested with an electric eel. Oh my god. Yeah, we'll get to that later. That's like some season. I think with season 3 we start getting into that. It also starts overlapping with Red Dragon. But yes. I have a lot to say about what Thomas Harris might have been smoking when he wrote that book.
Have you read his new one about a maid who fights off drug dealers?
I have not. I understand it's terrible.
I can't imagine it being good. I mean, he's had a good book since Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, no, he shot his wad with silence. He really did. I didn't even read Hannibal Rising.
Yeah, no,
I did not read the book. Did not see the movie.
Learned my lesson. So no thanks. Yeah, I mean, Jack gets confronted by his own imagination, where the guy is like talking to him. Turns out he's not. That's in his own head. But now his imagination is running free, and one wonders if he's not coming apart at the seams.
Spoiler: he is.
He is. Totes is.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to choose your own death venture, it's really, again, this is more of a location-based issue. Do you want to be blood-eagled in a motel in Trenton, New Jersey, in an alleyway in Baltimore, or a farmhouse in fuck all? I don't even remember.
I mean, my heart says New Jersey, but I also don't want to be found in like a sleazy motel. So I don't know.
Does New Jersey have non-sleazy motels.
That's you got me there. You got me there. But I think I would take the scaffolding because I think that just looks really, really dramatic.
Oh, it's totes boss. And then maybe, just maybe, you get to watch somebody take their own balls off and walk away.
Hey, you know what? If I'm dying anyway.
We don't know that it happens right there, is the other thing.
That's true.
And we never get an explanation as to why either. Just like, all right, time for these to leave.
Because no, he said, we'll explain, he said because angels don't have genitalia. But
they don't start with genitalia.
No, but he believes himself to be becoming an angel, and he's trying to hasten the process.
Sure. Spoiler alert: it doesn't work.
No.
He's a bad man. Yeah. Oh man, that whole sequence in which the guy's wife talks about how he reacts to being told he has cancer and how he deals with it. Just immediately goes back to, I just get instant flashbacks of Larry, my father-in-law, and all those discussions, and that particular summer of 2014 that we spent with them, as he shrank inside as the cancer grew inside. And when I heard that, it all came flooding back.
Yeah, this show, like I said, it's fantastical, but it kind of like touches, very real nerves. Yes. Like with me in the last episode, the concept of, kind of, for better or for worse, having to, pull together a surrogate family for yourself, and the kind of, benefits and drawbacks of having to do that. And then, something like this where again, the parallel is, nobody knows how to deal with having cancer the right way. Especially when you are faced with the possibility that you're not going to survive this.
Yes.
Nobody, like Crawford just thinks she should have been able to come to him and tell him, I have bad news and worse news. The bad news is I have cancer. The worst news is I'm probably not going to survive. And as you could tell with Crawford's personality, he's not going to accept that she's essentially said, well, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, because he's a person who does things.
He's very dogged in his approach to things. Mm-hmm. And we see that he does not take well to being argued with. When no. Graham barely raises his voice at him in one scene, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!" It's like
Katz later on describes it as I had a tingle run through my body, like when I heard my mom use the F word for the first time.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Well, goodbye," because Cropper's gonna rip your head off and treat it like a basketball.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, such a good show. All right. Well, that just about does it. Before we go, Gena, where can people find you on these here internets?
I am on Twitter under Porcelain72, and you can check out my TV and movie writing at thespool.net.
Do it today. We're on Twitter at KillByKillPod. We got the Facebook page, which is more for announcements group, where we go into deep discussions and post weird horror memes and all that junk. Come and talk Hannibal with us every single episode. We're on Instagram. We have a Patreon page if you want to give us some dough and get cool shit. And that just about does it. So next week we will be back with Kill by Kill. So the body count will continue for myself, for Gena. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.